Hey guys, when I won this item on eBay, I wasn't planning on doing an unboxing video, but when it arrived today in such a gigantic box, I figured it might be worthy of one, so I grabbed the camera and we'll see. So what this is an Admiral TV chassis. That's why I didn't think it'd be all that interesting, because you've seen enough of those. I've been working off and on for the past month, 2 months on a couple Admiral chassis. Those projects ended up being so convoluted, I kept changing directions, changing my mind about what I was going to do with those chassis, how I'd restore them, what sets I would put them in, that I ended up not posting any footage. I may in the end. The two in question, one of them I showed briefly while I was restoring this Admiral. It's the one that came from Arizona. And the other one is the very, very rusty and nasty chassis from the Admiral. I think it was a 20X136 I got from Indiana last year. So, originally, to give a quick summary here, I got the chassis from Arizona with the thought that it could be modified, because it was a 10-inch chassis. I thought I could modify the 10-inch chassis into a 12-inch and put it into that rusty set, the rusty 20X136. Then I decided, well, maybe I could finish stripping the rust off the chassis and leave the 10-inch alone and use it in yet another set, because I have several 10-inch Admirals that need chassis as well. And then this showed up on eBay out of the blue. This is a 12-inch Admiral chassis. Exactly the right type to go into that 20X136. So, however, this is missing stuff. All the controls are gone, the tuner's gone. But it came with a picture tube. However, the picture tube had the base, looked like it was broken off or partly missing. And my experience with sellers shipping picture tubes, when they're not in their original box, and they're still attached to a chassis, they never survive shipping. However, this was reasonably priced. It had been relisted a few times, didn't sell, with free shipping. This thing weighs 60 pounds or so. So the free shipping definitely made it a good deal, I thought. Plus, it saves me the trouble having to strip all that rust. So I figure I'll get parts scavenged out of other sets and see if I can make one working chassis. Probably made no sense to you guys, but once I get all the chassis pulled out up on the workbench, I'll go over it again. So, I was happy to see it was shipped FedEx, because I've had the best luck with FedEx and things arriving in one piece. And now I can see why the box is so gigantic, because the chassis isn't all that big. It's that they put it in a sea of peanuts rather than double box it. Ideally, if I was going to ship this to somebody and they really wanted it and they were paying me the money, I would have unmounted the CRT, put it in a proper box with support, and shipped it separately from the chassis. That being said, between the bubble wrap and the foam peanuts and FedEx treating it tenderly, it may have survived. However, when the base is this close to the edge of the box, I don't know. I don't think it shattered into a million pieces, otherwise I would have heard glass rattling around. When they implode, they tend to fragment into a lot of pieces. I don't feel any broken glass. Another pet peeve of mine. I don't mind things being wrapped in bubble wrap, but why do you have to use a mile of tape on top of the bubble wrap? Just a few strategic pieces is all you need to hold it in place, because all it does is when the buyer gets the item, you either have to painstakingly unwrap all the tape and start cutting through it, which may damage the item inside. Yeah, you can see this thing really got cocked in shipping. So it's probably centered at some point. Now it's knocked partly on its side and at an angle. Wow, I think the CRT actually survived shipping. So that was the other reason. I like to take a gamble now and then. And I figured all I really need when you get down to it is just a spare steel chassis. I got controls, I got spare high voltage covers, all the components underneath. But if the CRT actually has some life left, that's well worth it. In case you're wondering, I think I paid $80 for it. 80 or 90. The price was dropping like from 100 to 90. Maybe it got down to 80 when I bought it. And then free shipping. So to get a chassis and a good CRT for $80 would be a heck of a good deal. It's just shipping alone. This came from New Hampshire. It had to have been like $60. So the seller ended up barely making anything on it. I think I've reached the point where I'm going to put the camera down and extract this chassis. Alright, got it out of the box. Anybody need any peanuts? I got plenty to spare. I can see that they didn't put the bubble wrap all the way down on the sides. Whatever. I mean, it's not like most sellers on eBay have ever seen one of these, let alone tried to ship one, so what can you do? That looks to be alright. Now what they should have done, if they were going to ship it installed in the chassis, is secure the CRT. But I didn't realize that this cloth strap was supposed to wrap around and cinch down underneath this piece of metal here. Because as it is, the CRT is not attached. That's why I'm stunned and amazed the neck didn't snap off. There is nothing holding the front of the CRT on. So if this just got bumped left or right, the neck will just snap right off. It's essentially just floating on top of the chassis right now. And as you can see, there is zero corrosion on this chassis. And it is exactly correct for that 20X136, 20Y1 V10. Hey, it's even got a power cord. That. Ooh, yeah, that's not going to be reusable. Check that out. Yummy. And here's that. Another thing, I'm amazed that this didn't break off. I can see it from the fragment it was an RCA. That's going to be tough to pop out. I'll do it with when I got both hands free. I think I'll wrap some electrical tape around this to stabilize it and carefully pry that base off. I have spare bases I've salvaged from other dead CRT, so I can replace that if it's got any life left. So even though this is intact, of course it could have been burned out to begin with, but assuming this had been good and it didn't break anywhere, having the base loose, I think it's possible from fluxing. Well, one of the wires could have broken off too. Air might have gotten in somewhere around here, because that is there's a little glass pinch off inside this cap. That's where they sealed off the vacuum. See, the CRT got rotated quite a bit. This would have been pointing straight up originally. Oh, that was the original picture tube. So RCA sourced out to Admiral. So you see the high voltage connector doesn't reach the way it's set up right now. Anyway, so as I was saying, if the picture tube is bad, I've got one already. But all the controls are gone, and the tuner's gone. So somebody must have been using this as a parts chassis for something else. I was about to say another possibility that somebody may have taken the cabinet, put a modern TV in it, wanted to mount the original knobs on the cabinet, and pulled the controls out. Maybe like took a piece of wood or something, drilled holes into it, mounted the controls on them, and then stuck inside the cabinet and stuck the knobs on it. That's one possibility, if it wasn't just somebody scavenging the parts to repair another Admiral. I've seen stuff like that done before for sure. Alright, just like I said, wrap some electrical tape around the base and carefully extracted the CRT. Test that in a bit. First I want to check out this chassis. See what's going on underneath. Everything looks fine from the top. Yeah, alright. It looks just fine. Somebody just clipped out the controls. All this, I've done enough of these. It's I've kind of memorized everything, and it's all here and in fine condition. Looks to be just about all original. I think the only cap that's been replaced, this is Bumblebee here, that would have been going to the volume control. It's alright. So here's the chassis I was going to restore, the one that was all nasty and rusty. And you can see I did remove rust in a lot of the areas and got it primered. Still have a big section to do back here. And I also stripped everything out of it, all the controls, the tuner, the IF, power transformer, basically everything. My plan had been strip it down, remove all the rust, get it primered, get it painted, and then rebuild it like it was a kit TV, which would be kind of fun to do, but I got a lot of projects, not unlimited time, so I think it would make more sense to take the stuff I stripped out of this and put into this and get this working. So that is that. Now I'm going to get that picture tube up on the workbench and see if it's any good. Here's a closer look at that base, and it looks to me like 3 of the leads have already pulled out. You can see little holes in the pins here, here, and here, whereas these two, still see the leads protruding. If I take a peek underneath, those look kind of mangled and like they aren't attached anymore. So I'm just going to heat up these 2 pins and pull this base off. Actually, all I had to do is heat up 1 pin and the base fell right off. This is the only wire that was still attached. And I can now see that one of these wires is definitely bent over, so I'm glad I took it off. Now something else, I have never seen this before. I've always seen these with just like a glass nipple coming up here, that's where they seal it off. This is copper, it appears, with maybe a steel sleeve around it. So, yeah, I don't know. Did they attach the metal to glass and then a copper insert, and that's where it was pinched off? It's like, it seems so much more complicated than just sealing off a glass base. Anyways, let's see if it's any good. Okay, all the leads are hooked up, and if you're wondering how did I know how to connect these, they're all the same. Every black and white CRT made in the 40s, well into the 50s, they're all the same. 5 leads, G1, F1, F2, K, G2. Memorized that a long time ago. Kill the lights so I can see the filament better. Killed the juice to the CR70. Hey, alright. Get that up to 6.3. Getter still looks good. If any air did leak in there, eventually it'll consume the getter and then burn out the filament. Let's hope that doesn't happen. HK short, G1 short. Cut off control, but we have emissions. Not great, but the climbing, that is the important thing. So even as it stands, this would produce an image. Not fantastic, but definitely would work to some extent. Alright, let this sit for a while and I'll resume recording. Alright, it's been about an hour now, and I've got good cutoff control and emissions up close to 11, 10.5, 11, so excellent. Life test, not the greatest, but I'm sure this will produce a picture for a while. So I would reattach a base right now. I've got some I've scavenged over the years. So you got a GE, got a national video, and one that has no markings on it. Except that I'm out of sensor-safe RTV silicone right now. You don't want to use RTV silicone that has acetic acid in it. That's that smelly type of silicone, because that can start eating away at these copper leads. So for now, I will just put this aside, get back to my radio projects. And once I finish off a few radios, I'll probably get that Admiral chassis up on the workbench and get it restored and work on that cabinet too for the Admiral 20X136. Alright, so my gamble definitely paid off. I double checked and I paid $90 for it with free shipping. So $90 for a usable 12LP4 plus a rust-free Admiral chassis. I think that was a winner. I was just out running some errands and managed to get to Pep Boys before it closed, and got some more of the Permatex silicone. So this does not have the stinky acetic acid in it. It works great on this because it's made for sticking to glass. I decided to go with the GE base, even though I know this was originally an RCA, because it was the nicest of the bases I had on hand. So I took some desoldering braid and cleaned out all the pins, and then got lucky. Well, I wouldn't say lucky. I've done this a few times before, so maybe I should just say I've had some experience doing this. I straightened out the 5 leads, and with a little bit of patience and a little bit of luck, managed to slide this down with all 5 wires coming up through the hollow pins. You can see this one sticking out a little bit. Now this has quite a bit of the original material inside the base, which is actually on there pretty darn snug, even though I haven't put any adhesive on it yet. Nor have I soldered the pin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back this off carefully a little bit and get this stuff done in there. See how it's called flowable silicone? This stuff does flow fairly well. Whereas you may be used to RTV generic silicone being really thick and goopy, this is a bit thinner. So if I turn this upside down and put a bead around the base, it'll kind of get down in there and bind to the remains of the existing material. Then I'll snug it back down, tin up these leads, should be good to go. Start setting up, oh, well, there we go. Within an hour, fully cures in 24. I decided rather than turning the CRT upside down, which is kind of unwieldy, I'll just put it on its side. Back the base off a bit to expose all around the rim here, and I just gotta puncture a hole in this fresh tube and work some down in there. Should use a toothpick to work it in on the other side. I don't want to go to the effort of flipping this. Well, I guess I can rotate this around a little bit. That's enough. Wiggle the base around a little bit. Kind of worked around in there. Let's start snugging this on. Alright. Wipe off a little bit of the excess, and that's all there is to it. Here it is the next day, and the silicone has fully cured. Base is on there very nicely, but it's a little bit of give, and that can be a good thing, because when set's running, these necks get fairly warm, and I would imagine the glass expands a little bit, and if you were to put a big thick bead of something rock hard like epoxy, it might possibly crack the neck. All I can tell you for sure is that I had one picture tube rebuilt by Scotty at Hawkeye in Iowa before they shut down, the last picture tube rebuilder in the U.S. And he used, if not this very same stuff, something very similar. A little bit of give. Alright, so be looking for a restoration series on this chassis and picture tube in the not too distant future.